Hi, hello. Thank you for joining today's webinar. My name is Stacy Soderstrom and I represent Central Washington University. I'm going to provide a brief introduction to Central before I turn it over to my colleague, Dr. Sterling Quinn, who's going to be speaking specifically about the Geographic Information System major as well as career opportunities. So Central Washington University is a public institution located here in Washington State. So we're on the west coast of the United States. We border Canada, north of California. Central Washington University is located right in the middle of the state in a town called Ellensburg. We're about 90 kilometers from the city of Seattle. Seattle is well known for being the second largest tech hub here in the US, but also home to big businesses like Microsoft, Amazon, and Starbucks. Washington State is a beautiful place to live and study. We have the ocean, we have mountains, we have glaciers, a coniferous rainforest, a high desert. So a lot of beautiful outside parks to explore and experience nature. So Ellensburg is a small town. It is about 20,000 people, very easy to get everywhere. So we do have a free transportation, a free bus system that runs daily, but it's also easy to get around by walking or a bicycle. The downtown of Ellensburg is about a 5 to 10 minute walk from the south end of campus. Because Washington State is the home of Starbucks, we love our coffee here in Washington. So just in Ellensburg, we have 36 different coffee shops for you to try. We also offer a farmer's market, different music festivals, parades, and a rodeo that happen throughout the year. Ellensburg is situated at the base of the Cascade Mountains, making a scenic backdrop for your time here at Central. Central Washington University was founded back in 1891, so we have been around for a while. As a public institution, we have about 10,000 students, and of that, about 1,000 of those students are at the graduate or master degree level, so we are a mainly undergraduate bachelor degree focused institution. We currently have about 350 international students coming from 66 different countries, making it a very diverse population. Class size is small at Central, so the average class size is 20 students. The biggest class you'd ever be in a part of is 40 students, so that means you always know your faculty, you get to know your classmates, you have opportunities to do research and group projects and really engage in your learning experience. Campus is beautiful. It's 1.5 square kilometers. It is pictured down here on the screen. It's all closed off to cars, so really easy and safe to navigate. But in addition to all the trees and the river we have on campus, we also have a Japanese garden, a greenhouse, planetarium, climbing wall, swimming pool, movie theater, and lots of other great facilities for you to engage with. On campus, we have 19 residence halls and 5 apartment complexes. It's only required for you to live on campus for your first year as a freshman, and then you can choose to live on or off campus, just depending on your preference. Our students are engaged in the classroom, but they're also really active outside of the classroom. So we have students that are participating in on-campus jobs through all the different departments on campus, through our student clubs. So maybe if you're interested in the Happiness Club or Astronomy Club or International Student Club, you could join that. And then we do offer organizations and student government that you can get involved in as well. Central competes at the NCAA Division II. We have 13 different varsity sports, and you can, of course, try out for them. Or if you're more interested in just going to the games and cheering on your fellow Wildcats, you could do that as well. So today we will be learning more about the GIS major, but we do have a lot of other program options as well. So anything from business administration, computer science, and IT, but also things like music, theater, graphic design, sports management, entrepreneurship, biology. So a lot of different variety depending on your interests. So, how do you apply to Central? Well, it's relatively easy. You can apply online through our online application or through the Common App. You would submit your academic records and then, if necessary, provide proof of English language proficiency. So, I'm going to move my bubble up here so you can see the different areas that we would accept. So I know it can be a little bit expensive to study here in the United States. So Central does try to make it affordable for you as an international student. We have an international student specific scholarship, all based on merit. All international students are considered at the time of acceptance, and current award amounts are up to $11,000 per academic year. This scholarship is renewable every year as long as you maintain your grades, and it's stackable, which means you can combine it with other scholarship opportunities. Students are receiving other scholarships through our honors college, through athletics, and then through majors. So the College of Business, computer science, biology, music, they do offer additional scholarship opportunities. For those that might be interested in a master's degree, Central does offer competitive graduate assistantships. If selected, these assistantships do provide a tuition waiver, a living stipend, as well as coverage for health insurance and other student fees. Here's my contact information, so feel free to reach out via email or explore our website. And then the next section of today's webinar will be specifically on the geographic information systems, hosted by Dr. Sterling Quinn. So thank you for joining.
Hello, my name is Dr. Sterling Quinn. I'm an associate professor and the GIS program director at Central Washington University. And in this video, I'll be giving a brief overview of geographic information systems technology, what it is, and some of the jobs and study opportunities that are available with GIS. So we use information systems in our everyday lives all the time to manage information and learn new things. And GIS is simply information systems that have a geographic component. In fact, if you like maps and have been interested in those, you might find this to be an interesting field of study. Back before we had home computers and easy desktop computer processing technologies, we still used maps to make decisions. This image is from a book that was published in 1969 by Ian McHarg called Design with Nature. He was a landscape architect who used various kinds of maps to help make decisions. This is an area near New York City, and it is showing how they planned where to build a new expressway or a highway by taking into account different maps showing things like where the population lived, where there were wetlands, the different kinds of geology, and so on. Now, in those days, the maps were overlaid using clear plastic sheets to get a composite map to help with the decision making. Nowadays, we can store each map and each data layer separately, and we can use a computer program to overlay those layers to help us to visualize them, analyze them, and to make decisions about them. And these computer programs can require sometimes some special training and practice to use. And that's what we do in some of the GIS courses that we offer at the university. But these are powerful tools because they allow us to make customized maps to answer the specific questions we have and visualize certain topics. So let me show you some topics where GIS has been used. This is an example of a map made by the Washington State Department of Natural Resources showing some of the geology around the area where Central Washington University is in the eastern part of Washington State. A lot of this land was carved out by ice and water many years ago, and this map overlays several different kinds of data layers to show how that process worked. We have a terrain layer on the bottom representing mountains and valleys. We have layers of data representing water and ice that we can visualize, and so we can see how they shaped the landscape. And with a few arrows and labels and other things, we have a very educational map. We can also use GIS technology to see what's happening in real time and make decisions based on that. This is an example of two images that were taken with a satellite by the Ministry of the Environment in Brazil, trying to detect illegal deforestation. On the left-hand side, you see those yellow shapes or areas that were detected as healthy forest in the year 2016. In the right-hand image, you see that some of those yellow shapes have purple color in them. In this situation, the purple is being used to show areas that are bare land or where the trees have been cut down. And so that image on the right was taken about a year later, and this allows the authorities to investigate why that area is now bare and if it was deforested illegally. Here at the university, we've used mapping and GIS techniques to also visualize changes over time. These maps show the amount of people who installed solar power panels on their homes, and we were able to break the database apart into different months and visualize each month in its own map. And this shows us how things changed over time, both in the number of installations as well as hotspots or local areas of high activity. And we can see how those change geographically throughout the year. GIS and mapping has also been used sometimes in litigation and court cases. This map is from important fair housing case where the plaintiffs showed that using maps of Baltimore and geographic information from there, that areas of public housing were being put in areas of low economic opportunity. And they were arguing that these housing sites needed to be placed in a greater variety of locations where the residents would have greater opportunities. The left-hand map shows an opportunity index that was calculated using things like access to schools and jobs and other kinds of things that would improve the quality of life. And the green dots show existing public housing. The map here uses different geographic data layers to show natural hazards. There's areas in northwest Washington where landslides have posed a threat to homes and life. The orange layer here shows areas that are susceptible to landslides or mass wasting events, and the gray dots show home sales so that we can see which ones are occurring closest to the hazards. We can also use data layers representing terrain and elevation to help us understand what things are visible on the landscape from certain points. So one of our master students here used a visibility analysis to be able to see all of the land that was visible from areas of indigenous rock imagery, or images that had been made on the rocks by peoples in the past. So the purple area is showing visible land from those rock image areas. We're also using GIS in a local cemetery that was near some coal mines where many people came to work, both from Eastern Europe as well as the southern US and other locations. Using this technology, we can create shapes here on the map that represent the different kinds of gravestones and sites, and we can match those up with labels for each person so that people can find their loved ones. In some cases, there are no visible markers, and so we are relying on things like drawings that were made from people's memories of where people were buried in the cemetery. And then we can corroborate that with other technologies. For example, in this cemetery that where traditionally African Americans were laid to rest, a lot of the graves were not marked, but we can see some different kinds of patterns and markings on the grass from these images, indicating that there might be graves. And also using the hand-sketched maps, we can prioritize areas for further study. In fact, at this cemetery, we will be using machines that have ground-penetrating radar, which is able to send signals beneath the ground and identify locations where people are likely to be buried. So this map shows areas prioritized for the ground-penetrating radar. We've also had other students look at the burial of different people over time in the cemetery and how that varies across space by decades so that we can see how the cemetery developed over time. But in addition to visualizing particular topics and themes, we can also use GIS as a tool to help us with making decisions and creating models. Let's suppose here that we wanted to select an appropriate site for building a home or another building inside of this black rectangle. And we have some criteria for that. Maybe we want the location that we're going to build to be between 1 and 2 miles away from a road, while also not being visible from the road. It also has to be flat enough to build on. So we can load in different layers like the roads. In this case, there's only one road that goes across this area. That's shown in red below. And we can use tools to identify the area that lies between 1 and 2 miles away from the road. We can also load in data layers that represent the terrain or the elevation and the changes that it occurs across the landscape. This digital elevation model can help us understand what areas are visible and not visible from the road. So if we want our new building to be invisible from the road, it would have to be in one of the orange areas here that was calculated using GIS. We can also identify the areas that are relatively flat. So areas under 15% slope are most appropriate for building, and those are represented by the green layer here. So we've looked at different criteria and requirements for the building, and the best thing about GIS is that it's able to combine all of those together. So the pink area below shows all the area inside the black rectangle that meets the different criteria. They have flat terrain, not visible from the road, and between 1 to 2 miles away from the road. Once we identify this area, we could do things such as looking at who owns that land. These are all of the land parcels and owners that intersect that suitable area. Most of it is owned by the state of Washington, although there is at least one private owner on here. We can also load in other types of maps and base layers to explore the area further and see what kinds of things are going on the landscape there that might affect our project. As you've seen from this video, the GIS can be used in many different disciplines. In our own lab and classes here at the university, we have students that are studying environmental science, geology, biology, archaeology, and so on. It's also a very good tool for urban planning. In fact, there's probably a way that GIS can be used in whatever discipline that you are interested in. Likewise, GIS careers and jobs are found in many different sectors. Certainly, GIS is used at all levels of government, from the federal government all the way down to the city and county and local levels, to manage the different assets and possessions of the government and to map and maintain those. Also, many private businesses use GIS. It's used for transportation planning, delivery logistics. Big tech companies make and maintain geographic databases. We've had student graduates work for Google, Apple, and Amazon and other companies that are making big maps with geographic data. Utilities, oil and gas, as well as engineering consulting, are all areas where you can find careers in GIS. There are also many nonprofit organizations, such as the Red Cross, the Red Crescent, the Nature Conservancy, churches, and other groups and organizations that use this technology. There's also many great careers in education. I have one of those, and I enjoyed teaching GIS, as well as data vendors and consumers. For example, the companies that are collecting and marketing satellite data and images. And there are those who are creating the GIS software themselves. This chart gives you an idea of some of the university level GIS courses that might be available in GIS. These are some of the ones we offer at CWU. And we have a certificate that anybody can earn and add onto their degree program if they take 6 of these courses from the required lists. We also have a degree in major program in geographic information science, which students are welcomed into, and a full-size teaching lab that adjoins a classroom, and students can use the lab at all times to work on their projects.